This channel is about providing people with information and information that they can trust. But it is not only about information, it's about providing people with thoughts, and those thoughts that are guided or rooted in evidence and rooted in observations based on what is happening in society. So today we want to discuss, or you and I want to discuss, something which maybe you haven't thought about, or you may have thought about it without even be verbalizing it like I will be doing. And the issue is structured marginalization, or let me say it, structured marginalization of the Jamaican society. Now, let me take you back now. For those persons who are not students, let's take you back. During slavery, fundamentally, the society was structured. And I'm saying the society at the time, that is, was structured where the landowners were the wealthy persons, the landowners were the whites, and the rest of persons who were employed, who were actually considered as free laborers, bondsmen, were blacks in Jamaica, that is. Because of how the society was structured during slavery, not only did the whites have the power, they had the resources and the control over the court system and everything else that operates within the society, the slavery plantation society, that is. And for those who actually want to go and do some reading on that, you can go and read George Beckford's essay on the plantation society. All right? Now, so when Jamaica got independence in 1962, you would have thought that society was actually now going to be changed for the benefit of the masses. Little did people know that all happened when Jamaica got independence was a shifting of the power from the whites to the high-colored people in Jamaica. And the high-colored people in Jamaica have continued to rule the masses despite independence and despite the abolition of slavery. Now, let's look at some issues, because we want to remember, so we're providing you with trusted information, truth, empirically based, that you can actually go and do your research and actually go and do other observations. So we want to provide you with a work from none other than Derek Gordon that was written in 1987. And he looked at, listen carefully, he looked at, and I'm taking my time because I want everybody to go and read these materials for the purpose of understanding where we are today in Jamaica. Gary Becker looked at income inequality in Jamaica during slavery up to the 1980s, and he found, listen carefully now to these findings, he found that the Jamaican society during slavery was reflected, in terms of the income inequality, that is, was reflected the same as were the case in the 1980s in Jamaica. What does that mean? Although slavery was abolished, and although the society had gotten independence, people generally, and that, when I said people here, we're talking about the masses, the blacks, they were generally the same as it were during slavery. What obtains in slavery? They were the lower class, the less educated, the less person with resources, the less with authority, the less with power, and the less able to help themselves most of the times. You can actually go and read Simmons' work that actually wrote about Kingston after slavery. I will actually show you how Kingston developed out of the bowels of the poor, the bowels of the people, trying to eke a living out for themselves. That has continued in Jamaica. What has happened in Jamaica? Over the years, those persons in the poor and the lower class have continued to do what they would do during the period of slavery. What were they doing in the period of slavery? Just trying to survive under the system. What system? The structured, marginalized system. that structured marginalized system has continued. But you'll ask me the question, which of course is a very potent one. Many persons in Jamaica have risen, and you're saying, yes, there's no class, a structured social class called the middle class. I'm going to ask you for a second. Work with me for a minute. Let me ask you a question. How many of the middle class really own resources in Jamaica? You might put up your hand and say, I do. Let me ask you a question. Do you really own the resources that you have? Or is it owned by the bank and other lending agencies and you are just holders? Speak with me. Does education really make a difference for individuals to transfer, or I'm not even to say transfer, but to mobilize themselves from their current position to a better state? Look at the number of things that you own as middle class individuals. Look at the sacrifice that you have made just to be a middle class. Then ask yourself the question, am I really better off? Am I really better off? When most of the things that you own still belong to the structured class. Most of the resources in Jamaica, 90% of the resources in Jamaica, are owned by less than 10% of the people inside this country. That is a reflection of what obtains in slavery. I'm referring to it as structured marginalization. So there's clearly a deception that the middle class has, that they are better than the poor. It is only a definition, ladies and gentlemen, and not really any truth. The society has continued, as it were, during slavery. And I'm saying to those persons in the middle class, do you really want to look at what has happened in the society prior to independence? Think of what obtained in Jamaica during slavery. The high-colored class were the owners of resources. A few of the poor had certain resources. But the resources that they had gave them little or no power. Think of Jamaica today. For those of us who are in the middle class, what power do you have to make decisions and to change the society? You might say the politicians do. Do they really? Are they really creators, or they are just puppets for a structured system, as were the case during slavery, when those who were brown were able to muster more resources and more be a part of the structure than those who were the darker complexion Africans? Our society has been structured to marginalize the masses. We have continued this practice. And it's a part of the reason why we are having so much things happening in the society in terms of crime, in terms of homicides, because people are not seeing what is really going on. They are marginalized. And so because they are marginalized, they have opted to do a number of many other things, which takes me to another point. Go and read Gary Becker's work, was published in 1968, that dealt with the cost and punishment of crime. The society is so structured that persons are forced. Listen carefully. The society in Jamaica is so structured that persons are forced to become engaged in certain activities. And when they become engaged in those activities, what does the system do? Imprison them, take away their freedom. Is that any different from what obtained in slavery? Has Jamaica really enhanced the development of the masses of people? Look at where the masses of people in Jamaica live. Look at the conditions under which they live. Is that development? or is that marginalization? And at the same time, income has substantially grown. But for who? Think for a second. Is Jamaica structured to marginalize the masses, as were the case in slavery? Or have things changed? Tell me what your views are in the comments. Let me hear what you have to say. Thank you. I'm out.